Acts chapter 11. And the emissaries and brothers who were in Yehuda heard that the nations also received the word of Elohim. And when Kepha went up to Jerusalem, those of the circumcision were contending with him, saying, You went into the uncircumcised men and ate with them. But Kepha began and set it forth in order, saying, I was in the city of Yaffo praying, and in a trance I saw a vision, a certain vessel descending like a great sheet, let down from the heavens by four corners, and it came to be. Having looked into it, I perceived and I saw four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping creatures, and the birds of the heavens. And I heard a voice saying to me, Rise up, Kepha, slay and eat. But I said, Not at all, master, because whatever is common or unclean has never entered into my mouth. And the voice answered me again from the heaven, What Elohim has cleansed, you do not consider common. And this took place 3 times, and all were drawn up again into the heaven. And see, immediately 3 men stood before the house where I was, having been sent to me from Sisera. And the Spirit said to me to go with them, not doubting at all. And these 6 brothers also went with me, and we went into the man's house. And he told us how he had seen a messenger standing in his house, who said to him, Send men to Yaffo, and call for Shimon, who is also called Kepha, who shall speak to you words by which you shall be saved, you and all your house. And as I began to speak the set-apart spirit fell upon them, as upon us at the beginning. And I remembered the word of the Master, how he said, Yochanan indeed immersed in water, but you shall be immersed in the set-apart spirit. So if Elohim gave them the same gift as he gave us, when we believed on the Master Yeshua Messiah, how was I able to withstand Elohim? And having heard this, they were silent and praised Elohim, saying, Then Elohim has indeed also given to the nations repentance to life. Then indeed they who were scattered because of the pressure that arose over Stephanos passed through to Phoenicia and Cyprus and Antioch, speaking the word to no one except the Yehudim only. But some of them were men from Cyprus and Cyrene, who when they had come to Antioch spoke to the Hellenists, bringing the good news, the Master Yeshua. Oh, wow. I'm going to sleep well. And the hand of the Master was with them. And a great number, having believed, turned to the Master. The word of it came to the ears of the assembly in Jerusalem, and they sent out Barnabas to go as far as Antioch, who having come and seeing the favor of Elohim was glad and encouraged them all with purpose of heart to cleave to the Master, because he was a good man and filled with the set-apart spirit and with belief, and large numbers were added to the Master. Then Barnabas went to Taros to seek Shaul, and having found him, he brought him to Antioch. And it came to be that for an entire year they came together in the assembly and taught large numbers, and the taught ones were called Messianists. First in Antioch. And in those days prophets came from Jerusalem to Antioch, and one of them, named Haggai, stood up and indicated by the Spirit that there was going to be a great scarcity of food over all the world, which also took place under Claudius Caesar. So the taught ones, each according to his ability, decided to send relief to the brothers dwelling in Yehuda. This they also did, and sent it to the elders by the hands of Barnabas and Shaul. Chapter 12. And about that time Herodes the sovereign put forth his hands to do evil to some from the assembly. And he killed Jacob, the brother of Johanan, with the sword. And seeing that it was pleasing to the Yehudim, he proceeded further to arrest Kepha as well. And they were the days of unleavened bread. So when they seized him, he put him in prison and delivered him to 4 squads of soldiers to watch over him, intending to bring him before the people after Pesach. So Kepha was indeed kept in prison, but prayer was earnestly made to Elohim on his behalf by the assembly. And when Herodes was about to bring him out that night, Kepha was sleeping, bound with 2 chains between 2 soldiers, and the guards before the door were keeping the prison. And see, a messenger of Yahweh stood by, a light shone in the building, and smiting the side of Kepha, he raised him up, saying, "Get up quickly," and his chains fell off his hands. And the messenger said to him, "Gird yourself and bind on your sandals." And he did so. And he said to him, "Put on your garment and follow me." And coming out, following him, and knew not that, that what was done by the messenger was true, but thought he was seeing a vision. And when they passed to the first and the second guard post, they came to the iron gate that leads to the city, which opened to them by itself. And they went out and went down one street, and the messenger instantly withdrew from him. And when Kepha had come to himself, he said, "Now I truly know that Yahweh has sent his messenger and delivered me from the hand of Herodes and from all the Yehudi people were anticipating. And from all the Yehudi people were anticipating. And having revealed this, he went to the house of Miriam, the mother of Johanan, who was also called Marcos, where many had gathered to pray. And when Kepha knocked on the door of the gate, a girl named Rhode came to answer. And when she recognized Kepha's voice, she did not open the gate because of her joy, but ran in and reported that Kepha stood before the gate. And they said to her, "You are mad." But she kept insisting that it was so. And they said, "It is this messenger. It is his messenger." And Kepha continued knocking, and having opened, they saw him, and were amazed, and motioned to them with his hands to be silent. He told them how the master brought him out of the prison. And he said, "Report this to Jacob and to the brothers." And he left and went to another place. Now when day came, there was no small stir among the soldiers about what had become of Kepha. And when Herodes had searched for him and did not find him, he examined the guards and ordered them to be led away. And he went down from Yehuda to Caesarea and stayed there. Now Herodes had been highly displeased with the people of Soar and Sidon, but with one mind they came to him, and having made Blastos, the sovereign's eunuch, their friend, they were asking for peace, because their country was supplied with food by the sovereign's country. And on an appointed day, Herodes, having put on his royal clothes, sat on his throne and gave an address to them. And the people kept shouting, "The voice of a mighty one, and not of a man." And instantly a messenger of Yahweh smote him, because he did not give the esteem to Elohim, and become worm-eaten, he died. And the word of Elohim went on growing and spreading. And Barnabas and Shaul returned from Jerusalem, having completed the service, and having taken with them Johanan, who was also called Marcos. Chapter 13. And in the assembly that was in Antioch, there were certain prophets and teachers, both Barnabas and Shimon, who was called Niger, and Lucius of Cyrene, and Manahem, who had been brought up with Herodes, the district ruler, and Shaul. And as they were doing service to the master and fasted, the set-apart Spirit said, Separate unto me Barnabas and Shaul for the work to which I have called them. Then having fasted and prayed, and having laid hands on them, they sent them away. So they, having been sent out by the set-apart Spirit, went down to Seleucia, and from there sailed to Cyprus. And having come into Salamis, they proclaimed the word of Elohim in the congregations of the Yehudim, and they also had Yohanan as an attendant. And having passed through all the isle of Patmos, they found a certain magician, a false prophet, a Yehudi, whose name was Bar Yehoshua, who was with the proconsul Sergius Paulus, a man of understanding. This man, having called for Barnabas and Shaul, earnestly sought to hear the word of Elohim. But Elumas, the magician, for so his name is translated, withstood them, seeking to turn the proconsul away from the belief. Then Shaul, who also is Paul, filled with the set-apart Spirit, looked intently at him, and said, O son of the devil, filled with all deceit and all recklessness, you enemy of all righteousness, shall you not cease perverting the straight ways of Yahweh? And now see, the hand of Yahweh is upon you, and you shall be blind, not seeing the sun for a time. And instantly a dark mist fell on him, and he went around seeking someone to lead him by the hand. And having seen what took place, the proconsul believed, being astonished at the teaching of the master. Oh, come on. Turn that page. And having put out from Paphos, Shaul and those with him came to Perge in Pamphylia, and Yohanan, having left them, returned to Jerusalem. But passing through from Perge, they came to Antioch in Pisidia, and went into the congregation on the Sabbath day and sat down. And after the reading of the Torah and the prophets, the rulers of the congregation sent to them, saying, Men, brothers, if you have any word of encouragement for the people, speak. And Shaul, standing up and motioning with his hand, said, Men, Israelis, and those fearing Elohim, listen. The Elohim of this people, Yisrael, did choose our fathers and exalted the people in their sojourning in the land of Mitzrayim, and with a high arm he brought them out of it. Now for a time, about 40 years, he sustained them in the wilderness, and having destroyed 7 nations in the land of Canaan, he gave their land to them as an inheritance. And after that he gave judges for about 450 years until Shemuel the prophet. But then they asked for a sovereign, and Elohim gave them Shaul the son of Kish, a man of the tribe of Benjamin, for 40 years. And having removed him, he raised up for them David as sovereign, to whom also he gave witness and said, I have found David, the son of Yishai, a man after my own heart, who shall do all my desires. From this one seed, according to the promise, Elohim raised up for Yisrael a Savior, Yeshua, after Yohanan had first proclaimed the immersion of repentance to all the people of Yisrael before his coming. And as Yohanan was completing his mission, he said, Who do you suppose I am? I am not he, but see, there comes one after me, the sandals of whose feet I am not worthy to loose. Men, brothers, sons of the race of Abraham, and those among you fearing Elohim, to you the word of the deliverance has been sent. For those dwelling in Jerusalem and their rulers, because they did not know him, nor even the voice of the prophets, which are read every Sabbath, have filled them, in having judged him, and having found not one cause for death, they asked Pilate that he should be put to death. And when they had accomplished all that was written concerning him, taking him down from the timber, they laid him in a tomb. But Elohim raised him from the dead, and he was seen for many days by those who came up with him from Galilee to Jerusalem, who are his witnesses to the people. And we bring you the good news, the promise made to the fathers, that Elohim has filled this for us, their children, having raised up Yeshua, as it has also been written in the second Tehillah, you are my son, today I have brought you forth. And that he raised him out of the dead, no more to return to corruption. He has said thus, I shall give you the trustworthy kindness of David. For this reason he also says in another Tehillah, you shall not give your loving committed one to see corruption. For David indeed, having served his own generation by the counsel of Elohim, fell asleep, was buried with his fathers, and saw corruption. But he whom Elohim raised up saw no corruption. Let it therefore be known to you, brothers, that though this one forgives of sins is proclaimed to you, and by him everyone who believes is declared right from all their sins, from which you were not able to be declared right by the Torah of Moshe. Watch then that what was said in the prophets does not come upon you. See, you despisers marvel and perish, for I work a work in your days, a work which you would in no way believe if someone were to declare it to you. And when the Yehudim went out of the congregation, the nations begged to have these words spoken to them the next Sabbath. And when the meeting of the congregation had broken up, many of the Yehudim and of the worshiping converts followed Shaul and Barnabas, who speaking to them were urging them to continue in the favor of Elohim. And on the next Sabbath almost all the city came together to hear the word of Elohim. But when the Yehudim saw the crowds, they were filled with jealousy, and contradicting and speaking evil, they opposed what Shaul was saying. But speaking boldly, Shaul and Barnabas said, it was necessary that the word of Elohim should be spoken to you first. But since you thrust it away and judge yourselves unworthy of everlasting life, see, we turn to the nations. For the Master has commanded us, I have set you to be a light to the nations, that you should be for deliverance to the ends of the earth. And when the nations heard this, they were glad and praised the word of Yahweh. And as many as had been appointed to everlasting life believed. And the word of Yahweh was pleasing. And the word of Yahweh was being spread throughout the entire country, but the Yehudim stirred up the worshipping and noble women and the chief men of the city, and raised up persecution against Shaul and Barnabas, and threw them out of their borders, and shaking off the dust from their feet against them, they came to Iconium, and the taught ones were filled with joy and the set-apart spirit. Chapter 14. And it came to be in Iconium that they went together into the congregation of the Yehudim and spoke in such a way that a great number of both Yehudim and Greeks believed, but the Yehudim who would not obey stirred up the nations and evilly influenced their beings against the brothers. So they remained a long time speaking boldly in the Master, who was bearing witness to the word of his favor, giving signs and wonders to be done by their hands. And the crowd of the city was divided, and some sided with the Yehudim and some with the emissaries. But when a move took place by both the nations and Yehudim with their rulers to mistreat and stone them, they became aware of it and fled to Lystra and Derbe, cities of Lycaonia and the country round about. And they were bringing the good news there. And in Lystra there was sitting a certain man, disabled in his feet and crippled from his mother's womb, who had never walked. This one heard Shaul speaking, who, looking intently at him, and seeing that he had believed to be healed, said with a loud voice, "Stand upright on your feet." And he sprang up and began to walk. And when the crowd saw that Shaul had done, they lifted up their voices, saying, In Lycaonian, the mighty ones have become like men and come down to us. And they called Barnabas Zeus and Shaul Hermes, since he was the chief speaker. And the priest of Zeus, being in front of their city, brought oxen and wreaths to the gates, and wished to offer with the crowds. And when the emissaries Barnabas and Shaul heard this, they tore their garments and ran in among the crowd, crying out and saying, "Men, why are you doing this? We also are men with the same nature as you, bringing to you the good news, to turn from these worthless matters to the living Elohim, who made the heavens and the earth and the sea and all that is in them, who in past generations allowed all the nations to walk in their own ways, though indeed he did not leave himself without witness, doing good, giving us rain from the heaven and fruit-bearing seasons, filling our hearts with food and gladness." Even with these words, they still had difficulty in stopping the crowds from offering to them. But Yehudim arrived from Antioch and Iconium, and having won over the crowds, they stoned Shaul, dragged him out of the city, thinking he was dead. But while the taught ones gathered around him, he rose up and went into the city, and on the next day he went away with Barnabas to Derbe. And having brought the good news to the city, and having made many taught ones, they returned to Lystra and Iconium and Antioch, strengthening the beings of the taught ones, encouraging them to continue in the belief, and that though many pressures we have to enter the reign of Elohim, and having appointed elders in every assembly, having prayed with fasting, they committed them to the Master in whom they had believed. And having passed through Sidea, they came to Pamphylia, and having spoken the word in Perge, they went down to Italicia. And from there they sailed to Antioch, where they had been committed to the favor of Elohim for the work which they had completed. And having arrived and having gathered together the assembly, they related all that Elohim had done with them, and that he had opened the door of belief to the nations. And they remained there a long time with the taught ones. Chapter 15. And certain men came down from Yehuda and were teaching the brothers, unless you are circumcised according to the practice of Moshe, you are unable to be saved. So when Shaul and Barnabas had no small dissension and dispute with them, they arranged for Shaul and Barnabas and certain others of them to go up to Jerusalem to the emissaries and elders about this question. So being sent on their way by the assembly, they passed through Phoenicia and Shomeron, relating the conversation of the nations, and they were causing great joy to all the brothers. And having arrived in Jerusalem, they were received by the assembly and the emissaries and the elders, and they reported all that Elohim had done with them. And some of the believers who belonged to the sect of the Pharisees rose up, saying, it is necessary to circumcise them and to command them to keep the Torah of Moshe. And the emissaries and elders came together to look into the matter. And when they had been much discussion, much dispute, Kepha rose up and said to them, men, brothers, you know that a good while ago Elohim chose among us that by my mouth the nations should hear the word of the good news and believe. And Elohim, who knows the heart, bore witness to them by giving them the set-apart spirit, as also to us, and made no distinction between us and them, cleansing their hearts by belief. Now then, why do you try Elohim by putting a yoke on the neck of the taught ones, which neither our fathers nor we were able to bear? But through the favor of the Master Yeshua Messiah, we trust to be saved in the same way as they. And all the crowd was silent, and were listening to Barnabas and Shaul, declaring how many miracles and wonders Elohim did among the nations through them. And after they were silent, Jacob answered, saying, men, brothers, listen to me. Shimon has declared how Elohim first visited the nations to take out of them the people for his name. And the words of the prophets agreed with this, as it has been written, after this I shall return and rebuild the booth of David, which has fallen down, and I shall rebuild its ruins, and I shall set it up, so that the remnant of mankind shall seek Yahweh, even all the nations on whom my name has been called, says Yahweh, who is doing all this, who has made this known from the old. Therefore I judge that we should not trouble those from among the nations who are turning to Elohim, but that we write to them to abstain from the defilements of idols, and from whoring, and from what is strangled, and from blood. For from ancient generations Moshe has in every city those proclaiming him, being read in the congregations before Sabbath. Then it seemed good to the emissaries and elders with all the assembly to send chosen men from among them to Antioch with Shaul and Barnabas, Yehuda being called Barnabas, and Silas, leading men among the brothers. Having written by their hand this, the emissaries and the elders and the brothers, to the brothers who are of the nations in Antioch and Syria and Cilicia, greetings. Since we have heard that some who went out from us have troubled you with words, unsettling your lives, to whom we gave no command. It seemed good to us, having become one mind, to send chosen men to you with our beloved Barnabas and Shaul, men who have given up their lives for the name of our Master Yeshua Messiah. We have therefore sent Yehuda and Silas, who are also confirming this. Oh. By word of mouth. For it seemed good to the set apart Spirit and to us to lay upon you no greater burden than these necessities, that you abstain from what is offered to idols and blood, and what is strangled and whoring. If you keep yourselves from these, you shall do well. Be strong. They therefore, being sent off, went to Antioch, and having gathered the crowd together, delivered the letter. And having read it, they rejoiced over its encouragement. And Yehuda and Silas, being themselves also prophets, encouraged the brothers with many words and strengthened them. And having spent some time, they went back in peace from the brothers to the emissaries. But it seemed good to Silas to remain. And Shaul and Barnabas continued in Antioch, teaching and bringing with many others also the good news of the word of Yahweh. And after some days, Shaul said to Barnabas, let us now go back and visit our brothers in every city where we proclaimed the word of Yahweh, and see how they are. And Barnabas proposed to take with them Yohanan, called Marcos. But Shaul thought it not fit to take with them the one who withdrew from them in Pamphylia, and had not gone with them to the work. A sharp feeling therefore came to be, so that they parted from one another. And so that Barnabas took Marcos and sailed to Cyprus. And Shaul chose Silas and went off, being committed by the brothers to the favor of Elohim. And he went through Syria and Kilkia, strengthening the assemblies. Shalom.